Being the follow-up to one of the most successful and beloved games in a franchise is never an easy task. Doubly so when that franchise is as adored as Black Box's Need for Speed games. People can get very passionate about their favorites and what they believe to be the best. Need for Speed Carbon had to follow up a game that sold over 18 million copies in its life, and one that fundamentally shifted gaming culture once again. Yet throughout history, Carbon has been criticized for a cringeworthy story, comparatively short length, and most of all its lack of focus on police chases when compared to Most Wanted. But to me, Carbon was much more than the sequel to one of the most influential racing games. It was the first Need for Speed to be designed from the ground up for the new Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and was a game of beautiful nighttime cityscapes, vast car customization, and winding canyon roads full of some of the most intense boss battles. So let's dive into what made Need for Speed Carbon so fundamentally different from Most Wanted, and how that created one of the most unique experiences in the franchise history. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and leave a like below to show your support. The advantage Carbon has always had over Most Wanted is that it isn't Most Wanted. What I mean by that is, Black Box didn't call this game Most Wanted 2, which means our expectations should be a lot different. To show what I mean, let's take a look back at Black Box's other sequel, Underground 2. This game had to follow up the insanely popular Underground, which at the time revolutionized the racing game genre while also aligning perfectly with the car culture of the era. Because of the insane popularity, a direct sequel was needed, not only to ensure sales successes because of the number 2 attached to the title, but for the features and areas it improved on over Underground. We saw it take the core changes introduced in its predecessor and dial it up to 11, introducing a vast open world to explore, evolving the magazine cover mechanic to let players control their cars, and of course, offering players with even more options to customize their rides. Carbon, on the other hand, does not have that number 2 after its name, so it shouldn't have those same expectations behind it. To me, that's a massive advantage, as it allows Carbon to take the best bits from its predecessor to create incredibly unique experiences. Features like Speed Breaker and Pursuit Breakers are brought over to Carbon, but they really play a lesser role during your normal gameplay as pursuit chases are de-emphasized for a majority of the game. Antagonizing Rockport's finest was an essential part of Most Wanted's gameplay loop, yet in Carbon, that takes a back seat from the second you start your career. In our opening scene, we're entering the canyons of Palmont in our M3 GTR, and find ourselves being chased down by Cross once more. But instead of going on the offensive to stop him, we're instead told to escape from him. This lets you know right off the bat that police chases don't hold the same importance as they did before, for better or for worse. At the time, this was seen as a massive omission that critics and fans alike sorely missed. Today though, I find that its removal lets Carbon have its own identity separate from its predecessor. If ignoring the police wasn't a big enough change for you, Carbon also has us going from an individual racer working their way to becoming the number 1 driver on the blacklist, to one that's leading a crew and to taking over territory together. The crew system is one I find to be quite fun, as it not only gave the developers a reason to increase the opponent number from 6 in Most Wanted to 8 and in some cases 20 in Carbon, but it provided you with some great tools to use during a race. Blockers clearing the way for you, scouts finding all the nooks and crannies in the map, and drafters to help you hit some insane top speeds. You'll also encounter several minor crews during races, but your focus should be on the 4 major ones that control a majority of the territory. For now, we'll just focus on 3 of those crews, with Kenji leading Bushido, Wolf being the head of TFK, and Angie in charge of 21st Street. Not only are these teams divided up into 3 sections of the city, but they also serve to introduce you to another key change in Carbon's mechanics from Most Wanted: how your car class matters. When Underground 2 released back in 2004, players were introduced to the popularity of tuner culture on the car roster. Gone were the Ferraris and Mercedes from Hot Pursuit 2, and in their place we found ourselves in 240SXs, Integras, and Supras. While being a fresh take on Need for Speed's tired format, people really did miss the wider range of cars outside of Japan. Although Underground 2 drip-fed us more cars with a few muscle cars and SUVs for some reason, Most Wanted to push the boundaries and reintroduced a wide range of cars to drive. While our favorite Lancer Evos and Supras were still available, we now had access to a range of European and American cars, from C6 Corvettes to Fiat Puntos, all the way up to Carrera GTs and SLR McLarens. It was quite the impressive roster that gave everyone a bit of what they were looking for. Carbon, meanwhile, took what made these cars great and pushed the boundaries even further. Outside of expanding the list even more, Carbon fundamentally changed how cars work by breaking them down into 3 classes. Tuners, which have some of the best grip and handling at the cost of top speed. Muscles, which are the fastest accelerating cars but have the worst handling. And exotics, which are the highest performing all around but are some of the trickiest to drive. Breaking down these cars into separate classes not only provides more depth to how each car drives, but it also encourages you to own multiple classes for different events. Since they have such high grip levels, tuner cars excel at canyon races since you can carry so much speed through the corners. While muscle cars may struggle at handling, that face-melting acceleration is useful for speed trap races, where speed cameras are always placed right at the exit of corners. Outside of the changes to car classes, Carbon also introduced us to one of the coolest customization features we ever got in a Need for Speed game, with the autoscope system. Most Wanted was maligned for not having the ability to select bumpers like in previous games, but Carbon brings that back in a big way. Autoscope literally lets you sculpt how bumpers, wings, hoods, and even wheels look and fit on your car. To me, it's the logical endpoint to Underground 2's over-the-top levels of car customization, a system that gives the user a lot of control over how over-the-top or understated you want your ride to be. Standard parts from Most Wanted do return as well, and you can even mix and match between having an aftermarket body kit with custom hoods and spoilers to really make your car one of a kind. Carbon's biggest improvement over Most Wanted is how this game simply oozes style throughout. It picks a tone and it sticks with it throughout all aspects of the game, and it starts with the amazing soundtrack. I've praised the previous 3 Black Box games for their legendary licensed tracks for matching both gameplay and culture of the time. Carbon is no different in that area either, except that the soundtrack I adore here returns to the franchise roots with a completely original score created by Trevor Morris, S-Track, and Lego Welt, and they did an incredible job. You'll get a feel for it right off the bat as you select your starter car. Each class gets their own tune that you'll hear in the car lot and garage. S-Track absolutely cooked with all 3 of these themes as they fit the driving style of each car so well. Choosing an exotic gets you Induction Kit, which is a high-revving, fast-paced beat. Muscles have Burnout, which provides a big guitar riff to match the big engines they provide. And of course, Tuners have Belt, which leans heavily into electronica and dance beats that fit the vibes from the early 2000s tuner culture. The original soundtrack is also the main music for each race and canyon showdown, which I think helps keep the tone of the game consistent throughout. The eerie sounds mixed in with some of the orchestrated instruments provide a chilling vibe during cutscenes, and during a race, you'll find scores that swell as you accelerate faster and faster. The crescendo to all of this are the pieces you hear as you battle for your territory and life in the canyon. You feel the pounding of every drum beat as you get closer and closer to your rival, while the flutes provide high shrills matched only by the squealing of your tires. Each track is so unique in its own way, with different details to pick up on when you listen to them outside of gameplay, but they so effortlessly mix them together to truly make it feel a part of the world and story around you. It's some of the best music in the franchise, and it elevates your gameplay in a way more than any licensed soundtrack could. Don't get me wrong, the licensed soundtrack is still there, and it even follows the same rules as the original scores, where each car type has its own playlist. But you only get to listen to it when cruising around in free roam, which to me didn't really happen very often. The way Carbon tells its story is quite different from previous entries. Long gone are the computer-generated movies of Underground, alongside the comic strips of Underground 2, and in their place are pretty cool cutscenes with film of real-life actors woven into the gameplay. Most Wanted first introduced us to this, but Carbon took the ball and ran even further by providing us with more vignettes when we take over a piece of territory, before boss battles, and when recruiting new characters after we've successfully taken over an area. While a lot of fans online may criticize the campaign for the times where it's a little bit overacted,
I'm the monkey,
and the easy-to-see plot twist, I find that to not only be the charm of Carbon, but the other Need for Speed games as well. The experience is a lot more enjoyable when you really lean into Carbon's characters and just play along with it, especially when it comes to your crew members, who always have the radio chatter at a maximum during races.
just like you gotta be driving a big old muscle car, huh?
I not only find the dialogue to be pretty humorous at times, like when Neville successfully blocks an opponent, but their callouts can actually be pretty helpful too when you're focused on what's ahead of you. As your territories grow, so does your crew, and they're also a keystone in helping you uncover the truth of what happened that fateful night. After completing a boss duel in the canyon, you get a call from a former member of that crew wanting to meet up and join you. Beyond adding bonus perks for being on the team, they also provide flashbacks to the night you left Palmont and help paint a better picture of what exactly happened. This mechanic is pretty cool to me, as it characterizes the random names you typically see racing against you. However, what I'm not a fan of is how their meetup dialogue is the same no matter what order you take the other crews down in. No mention of your ongoing successes or how they're so maligned of their former crew, just right into what happened that night and how they can help. Once you've beaten all 3 teams, you meet up with Darius to celebrate your successes, with the double cross and a reveal that, in fact, he has been the one pulling the strings this whole time. Not only with you taking out all the crews in present day, but in the past as well, where he was the one that set up the police to take out the other crew leaders, and where he was the one who stole the prize money from you. To reward your successes in Palmont, Darius hands you over to Cross to make you disappear from the city once more. That is, if it wasn't for Nikki who set up Darius to believe that Cross would take you down and turn you in. If you've been paying attention, this plot twist has been seen from the moment we saw Darius in the introduction of the game. But I still do enjoy it much more than Most Wanted, as it adds to the lore of the player character and makes beating every single crew member so much more satisfying. Upon hearing this, Darius then recruits the former crew leaders to form a super team designed to take you down. He also provides them with the ultimate cars from their classes, which you can win by completing canyon duels that appear within the stack deck territory. Alongside the canyon duels, you also face off against them again in Darius' boss fight, which adds 2 sprint races with them before facing off against Darius directly in both a circuit race and a canyon duel. It's an insanely challenging endgame even with your tier 3 cars tuned to the max. Darius' car is insanely fast, and the 2-race battle leading up to him will have you worn out before you even reach the canyon roads. Despite the many restarts it may cause, the difficulty adds to your satisfaction when you finally beat Darius and send him on his way, without his Audi Le Mans, out of Silverton. A lot of the difficulty comes from the way Carbon executes on the aforementioned car class breakdown. Every car receives its own tier, ranging from 1 to 3. Once you conquer a specific area of the map, you unlock new cars in the subsequent tier. That in and of itself isn't so bad, but the real issue is that performance parts you've unlocked are specific for a tier of car, meaning once you've earned enough money to buy your tier 3 car, you still need to race in it to unlock the parts to make it faster, which early on in your conquest of Carbon doesn't come up as often, since your competition is quite close. But once you get to Silverton, that changes as you encounter some insanely quick tier 3 cars. This will lead you down 2 paths that are equally difficult. Do you spend your recent winnings on upgrading your car so you can keep up? Or do you go for the tier 3 car right away and deal with its shortcomings to win races and unlock its new parts? The other area of the game I have to criticize is just how fast the story unfolds before you. I started my playthrough off with the Alfa Romeo Brera, because if the game offers me a chance to drive an Alfa, I'm gonna take it. Besides being one of my favorite cars of the era, it also meant I got to take on TFK and their fleet of exotic tier cars. After about an hour and a half of recording, I not only took down Wolf, but I made some great progress into Kenji's territory. In total, it took me a little over 3 hours of playtime to beat all 3 teams and get to Darius' territory, where the difficulty begins to ramp up significantly. I think that what also sped up the first part of my playthrough was the fact that I had some insane luck with not only choosing Wolf's pink slip marker, but Kenji's and Angie's as well. For someone who tries their best to hoard every blacklist car in Most Wanted, this was very satisfying. But back to my criticism of the pace of the game. Outside of not needing to upgrade my cars or grind to buy a brand new one, I felt that the reason Carbon feels so fast compared to before is that de-emphasis on the pursuit chases I mentioned before. In Most Wanted, not only did cops interfere more during a race, but you were encouraged to keep the chase going afterwards as you had milestones and bounty requirements to hit before challenging a blacklist member. Carbon, though, doesn't have any of that. It only asks you to win a majority of races within a section of a territory to conquer it, and then control the sections to challenge a crew's boss, and that's it. During my playthrough, I dwelled on that fact and tried to brainstorm a way for cops to be implemented into Carbon's gameplay loop without being a copy and paste of the rap sheet. Here's what I came up with. Let me know what you think. In keeping with the crews focusing on a specific tier of car, I felt that each crew could have their own set of unique milestone mission types. For example, when you're trying to take over Angie's turf, milestone challenges could involve you in racking up a ton of police takedowns and smashing through roadblocks with the sheer torque the muscle class provides. However, for Kenji, you would focus on evasions and pursuit times since the tuner cars handle so well. As for Wolf, well, since they're so focused on exotics that are typically more expensive than your average car, you could focus on getting the highest cost estate and bounty during your runs. Finally, we get to Darius, and here's where it could be a lot of fun. Rather than dialing up the difficulty in your races, the pursuit milestones is where you could find the real challenge. Trying to earn the highest cost estates, taking on the most cops, all while having to go for the longest runs with the highest heat ratings will be fit for the high stakes gambling that the casino atmosphere provides. All that being said though, I don't mind the fast-paced nature of the game all that much, as it encourages multiple save files for more playthroughs. It gives you the chance to start a new game with a different starter car to approach from a different angle. Started with an Alpha? Switch to a Camaro and try to master the muscle class. Even once you've cycled through all the cars, the boss reward cars being a gamble also helps you dictate what your next move is after. Did you get lucky like I did and get every one of your rivals' cars? Or did you go the unique part route and give yourself a truly one-of-a-kind ride? Not every game needs to be a several-hour-long slog, and sometimes it's best when a game shows you its mechanics, lets you enjoy them, and ends it before it overstays its welcome. Although Most Wanted outsold Carbon and is remembered much more fondly than its sequel, my script for Carbon has an extra 2 pages than my previous one. The reason's simple. While I still do hold Most Wanted in incredibly high regard, I absolutely adore Carbon despite all of its faults. Every time I go back for a playthrough, I'm hooked all over again. Realistically, I could have gone on even longer talking about how many hours I synced into the online modes with Pursuit, Tag, and Knockout, or how the Challenge series evolved to give you more cars and visual parts to unlock. While people may criticize Carbon for its lack of police chases and comparatively short runtime, those aspects alongside its killer soundtrack and legendary canyon races are what create something entirely original. While it may be the literal sequel to Most Wanted, the sum of Carbon's parts adds up to something a lot more than that. So what do you guys think? Were you fans of Carbon when it first came out too, or are you on Team Most Wanted through and through? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for staying till the end, and most importantly, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.